I am Multi Gaming Talk, and I bring you my Resident Evil Requiem review. Because as I am recording this, I have finished the game twice, and I quite enjoyed it. I will echo things a lot of other people mentioned, and I will be blunt and honest as usual. Before we really get into the review, I will explain my grading system that I will be using in this review. It will be a star system, and the game has basically 5 stars, and I will knock off points to some aspect. So, what are the stars? Let's get into it. The first star out of these five is the gameplay and the level design. So I will be having talking points about these two aspects, and they will basically become a full star. The second star will be immersion in atmosphere, how the game felt while I was playing. Is the immersion good? And the third aspect would be characters and dialogue. Because it's important. So the third star is indeed uh parts of what makes the story. The fourth star is the story and the plot. What happens in the game? Does that work out? Is the character arc and all of that jam work? And the fifth star will be music and sound design. This is also a warning before we get into the first star. The warning is we will have spoiler. Everything will be spoiled. So if you don't want any spoiler, I'd recommend you to beat the game and then come back to this amazing review. So this game, you actually play as three somewhat different character: Leon, a child, and Grace. Now let's break down every part. As the kid, despite not being a fan and actually hating that short segment, it did feel very different from the other character. I speak mostly about the orphanage flashback where you try to escape said orphanage while monsters chase after you. The orphanage sequence heavily relies on the horror aspect of the game since you are powerless and the only option is to run away. Now, again, I've seen critiques out there, a lot of people talking about this part of the game, and I agree with most of them. It went on for too long. But but I will also defend it. I will play devil's advocate. Despite not liking it, I think it was a very interesting aspect. And it also gave different approach to the game. It's more than just shooting stuff or collecting blood. It's also running away from stuff and monsters, hiding, and we gotta give credit where credit is due. They took risk. They tried something instead of just feeding you a really weak game where, oh, there's only one character or that kind of things. Um, Again, I think this is the worst part of the game. I don't like it at all, but I won't hold it against the game because it's trying something else new. It's it's giving diversity in the gaming experience. So despite not being a fan of it, I I'm okay with it. I will stand by that segment. Before we move on to the next few characters, I will also mention a bike ride, and I will also say this. Even if I think the orphanage went on for too long, I think they nailed the approach in the aspect where you really feel scared. They are really doing a good job at making you feel for the character in that gameplay, and that's a bit of a premise of the atmosphere of the game later on in this video. So let's get into Grace. The gameplay she has is around 45% of the game, and it's very fun. The game is heavily focused on stealth, running away, and finding items. The horror aspect made that segment great, and the way Grace's plays force you to keep as many items as possible. You simply don't want to fight. Even the boss fight, mostly the girl in the underground area after the copter crash, also felt horror driven. The other interesting aspect would be the save system, needing typewriter and ink ribbon to save. Saving is another resource. And I will also add this because I didn't script it, so let's just add that. I really think they nailed it. The gaming experience was fun. The controls were great. In future playthrough, I will try my best to unlock the infinite ribbon because even if I like that aspect, I'm kind of scared to beat insanity without infinite ink. The game is quite challenging, I think. There is also that great sequence as Grace that you basically escape a lab and everything blows up and you got so many zombies going after you and you cannot stick around to fight them, otherwise you're kind of cooked. And that added something in the playthrough. And there's a very similar aspect or a very similar sequence, I'd say, where you basically need to escape another basement. She basically flew away from so many basements in that game. It's fascinating. But overall, the different weapons and the different areas in each parts of the game are always very fun to get through, except for the orphanage, of course. Now, let's get into a very interesting aspect, the action driven part led by Leon. The game is heavily focused on the action and resources management. It fights off several different bosses, giving different ways to beat them. You have several checkpoint saves and a few boxes to save. It's fast paced and action driven. It's going from a street in chaos to saving Grace from a copter crash. We get a bike ride, and as the game progresses, Leon is getting sick, and that's well reflected in the gameplay. The environment can also be weaponized as Leon. By destroying infected, you unlock new weapons and upgrades. The different weapons you can unlock have different playstyle, which was a great touch. A rifle felt very different from these submachine gun or pistols, and when you really compare the gameplays, um, the weapons Grace usually have are pistol and Requiem at some point. Uh, but when you play as Leon, you got that big arsenal and you can throw up like grenades and you can use like uh explosive like the footage there. But yeah, overall this game is just nuts. Leon goes wild and the action is griping, if we can call it that way. It's amazing. And the game looks so good. It's fascinating. And one trick as someone that beat the game twice, the second time around to manage my resource very well, I used the hatchet a lot more than my first playthrough. And I ended up like having so many ammo for bosses. It felt great. So let's get into the second half of that fabulous first star we got going on, level design. As Leon, you can get to choose in which order you fulfill some of the objective once you're inside Raccoon City, giving replay values. Spider Boss and Chalk Boss also offer different ways to deal with the said bosses, giving a good level design. With Leon, you have some linear part early in the game, but when you're in the bigger area, it's quite open how you walk around. The water sewer felt very different from the Raccoon City Police Department or the rooftop. The umbrella base also felt very different from the plant level or the subway. Again, we had aspects that were more linear, but we also had big sandbox and I thought the spider boss, I don't quite like it. I actually ate that boss, but I think the level design is fun, and even if I don't really like the boss, it's more like because I enjoy having a trip, and I think I may have a skill issue. And it took me freaking 20 minutes to beat it on my second playthrough for some reason. I didn't die, but like it took forever, and I'm sure there's a more effective way to beat it. I was just very bad at it. Apparently, there's also a way to beat Chuck as Grace. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. You need Requiem like 3 times. And I guess I will try that on my next playthrough and hopefully that works. But the Chuck boss fight, I quite enjoyed it. Even the first time, I found it quite challenging because I was really bad at it. But on the second go, it was much easier and it was very smooth. Again, I think the boss fights overall are very enjoyable. Even a spider boss I didn't like was enjoyable. Um, so very fun game, and Leon is just rocking here. Let's go into the Grace aspect to level design. As Grace, you can access some great shortcuts to speed up gameplay and give a different option to the player to beat different areas. The basement, when saving Emily from the cage, was indeed very different from where you beat the girl or when you try to escape the underground lab with the chopper keys. The Chronic Center had several great thoughts behind it, with light sometimes protecting you. I think the verdict on the first star, the gameplay and level design, is a full star since it was enjoyable through diversity and memorable moments with both main characters and the flashbacks. Again, I'm not a fan of the flashbacks, but I get where they were going with it. I actually understand it, and I enjoyed it to some extent. Again, I don't like that part, but I understand why it's there, and I feel like it's unfair to take away any points on that star just for like a 10 minute in the game that wasn't to my liking. Before we get into the immersion and the atmosphere of the game, I will say this. I played the game mostly at the first person because I thought that was the most immersive way, but I heard a lot of very interesting comment about how people played at the third person, and it was griping how they will fall when they would try to run as Grace. I didn't try it. I just like first person a lot. I My kind of game at the third person is like Splinter Cell, but in general, most of the time I do like uh the first person perspective a lot more. Um so let's get into immersion. The sound effects, the story, and the characters all work very well together. I was very much invested into continuing the puzzles and the battle against different types of infected. The game was very immersive. The atmosphere, the color grading, and the dark tone worked very well with the story. Gameplay and the sound effect added a very creepy vibe to the game. A good vibe, nonetheless. As Grace, you feel fear. As Leon, you feel powerful all the way up to the moment he is getting sick at the very end of the game. The verdict on the second star immersion atmosphere is another full star since the game got me hooked through its action and horror depending on which character we play as. So I really enjoyed that star. Full star again. So up to now we got 2 full stars. Let's go to the next point. The story was mostly solid, all the way up to the very end, when they tell you Emily got shot several times, yet she somewhat survived despite being put down by Leon. It's an issue mostly because it ruins the tragic moments that we can call Grace Trial by Fire. Emily should have died. It's cool to have a good ending, but her survival undermined Grace's growth. If you really want her to have a good ending, don't give massive plot armor after pretending she died. The theme of trauma and taking agency were solid. For most of her life, Grace was told what to do. She didn't have any control over her destiny. If you pick and choose the right ending, you take the decision and the risk to go against your ally Leon because he advises you and he thinks there's a better way. You willingly do something. You willingly accept to help the villain because you understand what's going on, which is growth as well. You also want to help the villain because it's also meant helping Leon. She was powerless when her mother died. She was changed when she could save Leon. As Grace sees her first adventure, Leon is very experienced, and if you picked bad ending, it's also Leon's final adventure. The flashback added many cool levels and lore. Each character's had great backstory. On the first playthrough, I thought the girl was Emily's mother. Turns out she's actually the sister, but the game doesn't tell you out loud. Story did work despite some flaws. It's also about second chances and redemption if you end up making the right choice. You helped redeem. Spencer, you gave a second chance to both Leon and Emily. Some nitpicks I want to debunk. It's stupid to test Grace and yada yada. Why not directly going to Ark? First of all, she escaped because she wasn't meant to leave her examination room. Second, Victor Gideon is a unstable guy that's actually not so sane. He screams anarchy at the end of the game, so he wouldn't care about anything. Surprises would be a source of enjoyment. Third, he knew the DSO were after him, so by driving them to the Chronic Center, he was hoping to trap them and distract them while he studies Grace and plans to fly over Ark. The only moment he tried to take out Leon was when Leon became too close to Ark. Fourth, why risking exposing Grace without even testing her and making sure she was the key you searched for? Plot was simple and well thought of. Leon investigates the bad guy to find a cure while bumping into Grace, prisoner devoted to escape the Chronic Center. Leon and Grace then team up to destroy Elpis. This is the plot of the game in a nutshell. It's quite simple and quite short. I'm fine with it. I think it worked out very well. Now let's get into the verdict on the third star. The story and plot. It's only half a star. What's really damaging for me is the aspect of the story where Grace trial by fire is undermined by Emily surviving several bullets for the good ending. Despite liking the ending, I'm not a fan of taking away the loss of Emily by making her surviving. They didn't get the balls to stick with her depth. Half a star is given there. Because again, I think the story overall and the plot did work. It's really that Emily moment that's like, I don't like it. Stick to your gun if you dare to say she or if you dare to hint at her dying, just let her die. It's sad, but that's all I feel. Characters were fun. Not only they were fleshed out, but they had charisma. From Victor being a crazy scientist to Grace, a naive insert of the player not aware of what happens to her, for then growing and understanding the world better. In the end was great. Leon was a veteran that's also sarcastic and desperate to make his believed departure matter. Zeno was a fun snob. Even the infected were characters. Chuck, always hungry and eating anything. Cleaner cleans. Some infected also apologize before passing away. The girl hated the light and loved her sister. The cook was all about dinner and kitchen. It's like when you really listen to the dialogue, he's obsessed over it. That's why he's walking around, and at some point, he's walking from the kitchen to the dinner room. Um, all of the work behind that, it added to the immersion. It's just a great aspect to the game. I highly respect that. It's amazing. Dialogue, voice acting was great. The characters felt alive and helped the immersion in the Resident Evil adventure. Down to the lines and tone, you could already point out and know which character you are dealing with. I think this is one of the highlights, and I will also add that the verdict on the fourth star, characters and dialogue. It was a great full star since everything felt polished and well made. It was triple A. You pay triple A price, and this time around, it's worth it. It's a triple A game in my books. Let's get into the first half of the final star being the music! Despite great end credits and fun moments, overall music wasn't all great and memorable. It felt like an afterthought, despite sometimes being indeed fun to listen to when we actually got said music. The other half of that star being sound effect, the screams, the chains being noisy was all great. The construction site did sound like a construction site. When things blew up, it was great. They made impossible sound believable. Sounds did help with tension being built and with the action and everything. So I do think these sound effects redeemed the music aspect that was lackluster. Verdict on the fifth star. Music and sound effect. It only gets half a star, losing to the lackluster and underused music. But again, I do think when there was music going on, it was fun. Like when we were saving Grace, that was cool music. More of that, please. Or another aspect is really like the end credit had amazing music. So again, they knew how to use very good music. It just wasn't all that great true and true. That's the unfortunate part. Because I compare this game to another game I played recently, being Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I do think Requiem is far better and superior as a game, but I remember the music from Prime 4 Beyond. Maybe it's because of the playtime. I played like over 40 hours, but I'm coming close to that with Requiem as well. But all of that is to say the music do matter. And unfortunately, I don't think they used music enough for me with Requiem. Here is my verdict on the stars countdown. Yes, we are there. This is like the ending of that review, and I will let you all know uh, how do I grade this game. If you have been listening closely, you may already know the answer, but let's get into it. The verdict on the stars countdown. The game gets a 4 stars out of 5. Two halves, a star were lost to music and the story. Amazing game. I am excited to play more Resident Evil games. And again, just because of Requiem, I plan on playing every game I can because I know there are some games that are online only or that kind of crap. There's also a multiplayer game. Maybe I will find someone to play with. Uh, but overall, Requiem, very satisfying game. A lot of people said 9 out of 10. I can see that. A lot of people say 8. I can see that. Myself, I've given an 8. What did you think of the Resident Evil Requiem game? Did you like it as much as I did? Let me know in the comments. With that being said, I will be having more Requiem content on this channel. This is only the start of it. So if you want to see more Requiem, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time for more reviews and gameplay.